Sometimes I wonder if loneliness is loudest when surrounded by voices. Have you ever sat in a room full of people smiling, nodding, perhaps even laughing, while feeling like you're watching yourself from behind thick glass? I have, many times. There are moments when the crowd grows thicker, yet the distance between souls only seems to widen. When every conversation feels like an echo that never quite reaches your true self. When you're acknowledged but not seen, heard but not understood. This is not the loneliness of empty rooms or silent phones. No, this is the peculiar ache of being invisible while taking up space, of having your physical presence noted while your spirit remains untouched. I see you there, dear one, moving through your days with grace and strength, caring for everyone around you, responding when needed, showing up when called. And yet beneath that capable exterior, there's a quiet whisper. Does anyone truly see me? Does anyone know who I am beyond what I do for them? Today, we'll walk together through this paradox, this weight of being surrounded yet profoundly alone, not to fix it with simple words, but to honor its presence in your life. And perhaps to discover that this aloneness, once embraced, might hold the seeds of your most authentic liberation. There's something almost sacred about the way you've carried this feeling, this weight that has no name in casual conversation. You walk into rooms filled with family members who've known you for decades, colleagues who see you daily, friends who call you for coffee, and still, something essential remains untouched, unseen. I remember sitting at my own dining table, surrounded by laughter and stories, plates being passed, glasses being filled, my home, my people, and yet I felt like a visitor from another world, watching it all unfold through a veil of separation. This crowded emptiness has a texture all its own, doesn't it? The way you can be speaking and smiling while something inside you stands apart, observing, waiting, hoping that someone might notice the gap between your words and your truth. You've become so skilled at bridging these worlds, at being present enough that no one notices your absence, at answering questions about your day without revealing the vastness that lives beneath your answers. I'm fine. Two small words that create the greatest distance. You see, what makes this loneliness so heavy is not just its presence, but how invisible it remains to others, how impossible it feels to explain, because on paper, you are connected. On paper, you belong. Yet paper doesn't capture the quiet moments when you're lying beside someone who knows your body, but not your fears. When you're celebrating achievements with people who applaud what you've done but haven't witnessed what it cost you. When you're comforting others while your own comfort remains a distant memory. The crowded emptiness, a room full of people who know your name but not your nightmares, who recognize your face but not the journey that shaped it. My dear, I want you to know something. This feeling doesn't make you ungrateful. It doesn't make you cold or disconnected or wrong in any way. It makes you human. A soul longing for the kind of connection that honors all of who you are, not just the parts that fit neatly into the spaces others have made for you. There is a particular kind of silence that exists only in the midst of noise. Have you felt it? That moment when conversations swirl around you, when laughter rises and falls, when questions are asked and answered, and yet, within you, there is a deep, resounding quiet. Not peace, exactly. More like the silence of things unsaid, of words that rise to your lips and retreat again because you know, somehow, they won't be properly heard. I used to wonder what was wrong with me, why I could sit in a room full of dear ones and feel like I was watching life through a window rather than living it. Why I could speak and be answered and still feel like the most important parts of me remained unsaid. The noise around you, it's constant, isn't it? The needs and expectations, the roles you fill so capably, mother, wife, daughter, friend, colleague, the endless stream of conversations about schedules and problems and daily concerns. And in all that noise, the silence within you grows, the unasked questions, the unshared dreams, the doubts and fears and hopes that feel too raw, too real, too much for casual conversation. How are you? Fine, and you? Simple words exchanging no truth at all. You've learned to navigate this silence, haven't you? To carry it with dignity, to accept it as the price of being the person everyone relies on. The strong one, the capable one, the one who listens more than she speaks. But oh, my dear, how exhausting it is to be surrounded by voices and still feel unheard, to speak your truth in ways so subtle that no one recognizes the courage it took, to reach out with such careful words that your reaching goes unnoticed. There are days when you wonder if you've become invisible, if the real you has disappeared beneath the roles you play so well, if anyone would notice if you suddenly spoke all the words you've been carrying in that silence. This isn't about blame. The people around you, they love you in the ways they know how. They see the parts of you they recognize. They hear what they're prepared to hear. But that doesn't make the silence any less heavy. It doesn't make the loneliness any less real. There is a moment I remember clearly, standing in my kitchen, preparing a meal for people I loved. My hands moved automatically, chopping, stirring, seasoning, while conversations flowed around me. Someone laughed at a story, someone else complained about work, a child called for attention, and suddenly I felt myself vanish. Not my body, of course. That remained, continuing its tasks with practiced ease. But the essential me, the woman with her own untold stories, her own unasked questions, her own silent longings, she disappeared completely. Has this happened to you? This strange evaporation of self while remaining physically present. It's a particular kind of magic that women learn, isn't it? To be so attuned to others that we become the negative space around them, the background that makes their foreground possible, the steady rhythm beneath their melody. You've perfected this invisible art, the way you anticipate needs before they're spoken, the way you create comfort without drawing attention to the effort. The way you absorb worries, diffuse tensions, maintain the delicate ecosystem of relationships around you. And for so long, perhaps you didn't mind. There is beauty in being the one who sees rather than needs to be seen, strength in being the holder rather than the held. But somewhere along the way, the invisibility began to weigh on you, not because you crave attention, no, that's not it at all, but because being unseen means being unknown. And being unknown means being alone, even in a crowded room. You wonder sometimes if anyone would notice if you stopped asking about their day, if you didn't remember their favorite foods or anticipate their unspoken needs, if you spoke about your own dreams with the same enthusiasm you offer when hearing theirs. The irony doesn't escape you. The more essential you become to everyone's comfort, the less your presence is consciously noted. You've become like air, vital but invisible, noticed only in absence. My dear sister, your invisibility is not a reflection of your worth. It speaks more to the blindness of a world that takes for granted the emotional labor of women, that accepts without question the love expressed through 1,000 small attentions. But I see you there, behind your smile, behind your efficiency, behind your grace. I see the woman who longs to be known for more than what she gives, who wishes, sometimes, to be reached for rather than reaching, to be asked rather than asking, to be discovered rather than forever discovering others. The walls between us and others, they aren't built in a day, are they? They rise slowly, invisibly, one unshared truth at a time, one swallowed feeling after another. One moment of holding back, then another, until holding back becomes the habit that feels safest. I remember the first time I recognized my own walls. I was laughing with friends, sharing stories that sounded intimate but revealed nothing of my deepest self. And I realized I had become fluent in a language of connection that created only the illusion of being known. You felt it too, haven't you? That moment of recognizing the carefully constructed perimeter around your true self. The moat that keeps others at a safe distance while you stand alone in your fortress of unspoken truths. These walls weren't built from mistrust or coldness. No, they came from wisdom, from experience. From the times you risked vulnerability and found blank stares or quick changes of subject, from moments when your depth was met with uncomfortable silence. "You think too much," they might have said. "Why do you make everything so serious? Just relax and enjoy the moment." Words that pushed you further into your solitary castle. So you learned to keep the conversation light, to match your pace to others' comfort, to hide the parts of yourself that seemed too intense, too questioning, too hungry for meaning in a world content with surface. But walls that protect also confine, and the safety of being unknowable comes with the price of being unknown. I want to tell you something important, something I learned in my own journey through this crowded loneliness. Reaching through walls doesn't mean tearing them down all at once. It doesn't require grand confessions or dramatic revelations. It begins with small truths, tiny, almost imperceptible moments of authentic presence. It might be as simple as pausing before answering fine when someone asks how you are, taking that breath that allows a more honest answer to form. It might be declining a request instead of automatically saying yes and sitting with the discomfort of prioritizing your own needs. It might be sharing one small dream, one genuine fear, one true delight, not with everyone, but with someone who has earned the right to your truth. These small reaches, they may not be recognized for the brave acts they are. The person on the other side might not grasp the magnitude of what you're offering, but that's not why we reach. We reach because the reaching itself begins to dissolve our isolation, because expressing our truth, even in small ways, honors the woman inside the walls. Because each authentic moment is a reminder that while others may not see all of you, you can still see yourself. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, these small reaches will be met. A flash of recognition will pass between you and another soul. A moment of being truly seen, truly heard, will break through the fortress of your aloneness. Not forever, not completely, but enough to remember that connection is possible, that bridges can be built across the spaces between hearts. There is a difference, I've come to understand, between speaking and being heard, between being physically present and having your essence acknowledged, between connection that fills time and connection that fills the soul. For so long, perhaps you've accepted the former when your heart has longed for the latter. I remember walking through an empty canyon once, calling out and hearing my voice return to me. There was something profoundly moving in that moment, not just hearing my own words echoed back, but feeling the validation of their existence in the world. The proof that they had traveled outward, touched something, and returned changed, but recognizable. That's what we're seeking, isn't it? Not merely to speak, but to be echoed, to send our true voice out into the world and have it touch something that responds, that confirms we've been received. My dear one, finding your echo begins with recognizing your own authentic voice. After years of attuning yourself to others' needs, of moderating your thoughts to maintain harmony, of translating your deep waters into shallow streams that others can easily wade through, you may have lost touch with the raw, unedited language of your own heart. This is not your failure, this is your adaptation. This is how you've loved, how you've belonged, how you've survived. But now, in this sacred space between us, I invite you to listen inward, to become curious about the woman who exists beneath the roles, beneath the competence, beneath the carefully constructed bridges to others. What does she want to say that has gone unspoken? What truths has she carried silently? What questions keep her awake when the house has gone quiet and there's no one left to tend to but herself? Finding your echo requires first finding your voice. And finding your voice begins with listening to yourself with the same compassion you've offered others. Sometimes this listening happens in solitude, in journals never shown, in prayers never spoken aloud, in quiet moments by water or beneath trees. Sometimes it happens in the presence of a therapist, a spiritual director, a friend who has earned the gift of your unfiltered truth. And sometimes, most bravely, it happens in ordinary moments when you choose to speak from a more authentic place, not to demand understanding, but to honor your own existence. Actually, I'm struggling today. I've been thinking about something that matters deeply to me. I need some time to hear my own thoughts. Simple words that create space for your true self to emerge. When you begin to hear yourself, really hear yourself, something remarkable happens. You become more attuned to others who speak your soul's language. You recognize potential echoes in unexpected places. You develop a radar for the kind of connection that doesn't require translation or reduction. They may not be the people you expected. They might not be in your immediate circle. They might enter your life briefly or from a distance, through books that speak directly to your experience, through art that captures your unspoken feelings, through conversations with strangers who somehow see you more clearly than those who've known you for years. Each echo, each moment of being received, creates a small crack in the isolation. Not by making you less alone, but by confirming that your aloneness is a shared human experience, and that within it lies the possibility of your most authentic connection. There is a quality of aloneness that has nothing to do with loneliness, a solitude that nourishes rather than depletes, a relationship with self that becomes the foundation for all other relationships. I believe that's where this journey leads us, not to a magical world where every interaction fulfills our deepest needs for connection, not to perfect understanding from those around us, but to a place of such profound self-companionship that the ache of being unseen loses some of its sharpness. This doesn't happen overnight. It comes gradually, in moments of quiet revelation, like the day you realize you've stopped apologizing for your depth, your intensity, your need for meaning. The day you recognize that these aren't flaws to be corrected, but gifts to be honored, even if they're gifts that not everyone knows how to receive. Or the moment when you discover you've begun to curate your connections more intentionally, investing more in relationships where some measure of true exchange is possible, creating gentle distance from interactions that leave you feeling emptier than before. Or perhaps the morning you wake up and notice that the voice inside your head has changed its tone, speaking to you with the same compassion you've always offered others, acknowledging your humanity, celebrating your courage, witnessing your journey without constant criticism. My sister, this is the paradoxical truth I've learned in my own life. When we fully inhabit our aloneness, when we stop running from it or resenting it or seeing it as evidence of our failure, it transforms into something else entirely. Something that feels less like isolation and more like sovereignty. There's a difference between being lonely and being alone. Loneliness is the painful awareness of disconnection. Aloneness, when embraced, becomes the sacred space where you meet yourself without distraction. And from this place of honored solitude, something shifts in how you move through the crowded world. You no longer enter rooms hungry for recognition, desperately hoping to be seen. You arrive already full, already witnessed by the one person whose acknowledgement matters most, yourself. You no longer measure the success of an interaction by how well others understand you, but by how truthfully you were able to express yourself, regardless of how that expression was received. You no longer take it as personal rejection when others can't meet you in your depth. You recognize that each soul has its own capacity, its own timing, its own journey toward authenticity. This doesn't mean you stop seeking connection. We are made for relationship, for sharing, for love, but you seek it from a place of wholeness rather than lack, from a desire to share your light rather than a desperate need to be illuminated by others. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you no longer need others to rescue you from your aloneness, you become capable of the kind of connection you've always longed for, authentic, mutual, rooted in choice rather than necessity. You become available for relationships where two sovereign souls choose to build bridges to each other, not because they're incomplete without connection, but because connection between whole persons creates something more beautiful than either could create alone. My dear one, the weight of being surrounded yet still alone, it may never completely disappear. There will still be family gatherings where you feel the gap between your inner and outer worlds. Still be conversations where what remains unsaid feels heavier than what's spoken. But that weight can be transformed from a burden of isolation to a reminder of your depth, from evidence of disconnection to an invitation to honor your own complexity. You are not too much, you are not too deep, you are not too sensitive or too thoughtful or too hungry for meaning. You are a woman of substance in a world that often settles for surface. A soul seeking authentic connection in spaces designed for convenient interaction. A being of depth, navigating the shallows without drowning your true nature. The aloneness you've carried, it has shaped you, strengthened you, taught you to hear your own voice amid the noise of others. And now perhaps it can become the quiet center from which you live, the wellspring of your wisdom, the source of a love so self-contained that it can be offered freely without attachment to how it's received. You are seen, dear one, if not always by those around you, then by your own awakening heart. And in the end, perhaps that's the recognition that matters most. Not the end of aloneness, but its transformation into the sacred ground where your most authentic self can finally, fully come home.